Good morning, it's Joyful Christian Hermit. I didn't sleep well again last night. I'm getting tired. I've been on working too much. I know it. But also my intestines were starting to get bad. So I had to take drastic action with drinking lots of lactulose and taking other things and loads of watermelon. So up a lot in the night. But it'll be just, about 5-6 weeks, I think, until I see the PA for the colon surgeon and see if there's any other remedy. And I don't know the latest and final prescription medication that my pain doctor ordered that is supposed to be something new, one of the three that were new that are to help people who have to take pain medication and have what's called opioid-induced constipation. I think this is more from my arachnoiditis, but of course I don't know for sure myself. And but it was going to be a $262 copay for the medicine, and I had just paid $95 for a medicine, one of the three that of which I'd tried one already. So, and it did absolutely nothing at all, which led me all the more to consider that this is not the typical, that this is from my arachnoiditis. So I didn't pay the $262 because I keep having to dip into my inheritance to pay monthly bills. And now it's getting to be very high percentage of about a third now of my income, my monthly, before insurances and taxes are out. So I keep going down in the wrong direction financially. And I won't be able to sustain that forever, for I won't die. I don't think I'll die before I'm much older, but I don't know. So I'm and they won't sell me just a few of them because they can't get stuck with all these medicines that other people don't need or want, or most don't need that kind of medication. So we're experimenting, but it's getting costly to do so. And so I might call them today or no, I guess it would have to be tomorrow, and ask them to keep the prescription. In October, I get a little more income. Every quarter, I get a little more, and maybe I could buy it then and try it 1st of October or something. Or maybe even with my visa, and because my bill would be due then in October. And I could pay it, I hope. I have it's getting tough. But God knows what he's doing, and I'm very grateful with what God is doing with me. So here is this catechesis teachings by Saint Cyril of Jerusalem. He was born around 313, but he died in 386. He became a bishop in 350. So he is a bishop of Jerusalem and doctor of the church, of the Christian church, in the 4th century, in the 300s, which would be the 4th century. And I read about St. Cyril of Jerusalem, and what a fascinating life. He was exiled at least 3 times. People had disagreements with him. Accused him of being Arian, and he wasn't. That is a type of a heresy in the early church. But he finally succeeded in getting into his position that God wanted him, God's will for him and God's wishes for him. And he finally, when he was about maybe 40 or so, was able to succeed a bishop and became the bishop and did a lot of good. But even during that time, twice he was exiled then, but it all settled down. He finally was vindicated about 6 years before his death. Here is this teaching of him, though, this writing of St. Cyril. And it's appropriate for what I was talking about, sharing the other day in my latest video. He who listens, this is from Luke chapter 6, 47 and 48. He who listens is like one who constructed a house. Our lives, our purpose and our mission for God. We construct them. We work with God and construct what we are to do in God's will. Attend closely to the catechizings, the teachings, in other words, and though we should prolong our discourse, let not your mind be wearied out. For you are receiving armor against the adverse power. You have many enemies. Take to you many darts, for you have many to hurl them at, and you have need to learn how to strike, how to contend, how to fight. And the armor is ready, and most ready the sword of the Spirit. But thou also must stretch forth your right hand with good resolution, that you may war the Lord's warfare, and overcome adverse powers, and become invincible against every heretical attempt. See, we're to be preparing ourselves. Imagine it is the season for planting trees. If we do not dig and dig deep, when else can that be planted rightly, which has once been planted ill? Suppose, pray, that the catechizing or the teaching is a kind of building. If we do not bind the house together by regular bonds in the building, lest some gap be found, and the building become unsound, even our former labor is of no use. But stone must follow stone by courses of stone, and corner match with corner, and by our smoothing off inequalities, the building must thus rise evenly. In like manner, we are bringing to you stones, as it were, of knowledge. You must hear concerning the living God. You must hear of judgment, must hear of Christ, and of the resurrection. And many things there are to be discussed in succession, but unless thou fit them together in the one whole, and remember what is first and what is second, the builder may build, but you will find the building unsound. So that's a beautiful metaphor for the building of our souls, of our spiritual lives, but also our temporal lives. Our temporal lives, the building, the actual structure, comes from within to without. If we lack a beautiful soul that is doing what God wills of us, number one, loving Him and learning to love, learning God's love, so that we can love others and love ourselves as God loves, and to love God with His love, to give back to God our love that is learned from His type of love, the qualities of His love that is so effective God's love is so effective with others and with ourselves, and also though it pleases and glorifies God Himself when we love others and ourselves, and above all love Him with that type of love, holy love. And we can learn these things by staying on the holy, narrow path, following the teachings of Christ and His life, pondering His life, pondering His words, praying, asking Him to teach us to interact with people in His way of interacting. I make many mistakes with people. I can get sharp, or I can get too much to the point, or as I pointed out the other day and know it of me, of criticizing others, especially those who criticize me. I criticize back. It's as if their criticizing me sparks something, that then I see them doing the same things they criticize me for, or other things, and I get back. It's not intentionally, but it's become a habit. And I wouldn't even think of other people in those lights, in that light, critical light, but they did it to me first. So it's a good reason for us to be very careful what we do to others or how we criticize others, because it can like turn on a light switch with them, that they see we're doing the very same thing that they find in us we are doing, see, or they are doing. It just becomes a back and forth. And then where is our mind? Where is our heart? Where is our soul? It's on criticizing or noticing others and them noticing us in negative light. Like even the way that I do my work, in the order in which I do it. I do it by task more than by finishing one whole room at a time, because I don't need that kind of gratification of seeing a room done. I can visualize what it will look like, and I can ignore. I've lived through more bad house situations that other people haven't, and I have my body to contend with, and then helping others if they ask. Not a lot, but family, if my other children would ask or say, we need you to come and help or do something or be here with the granddaughter, my husband and I need to take a vacation alone, or whatever it might be, I would do it. Even if travel would be terribly hard on me, I'd go early so I could recover. So, but two don't ask of me. So the one who does, now and then, not often, but I go, and she's interested in learning and is starting to realize that a means of her getting a better financial basis is by investing and renting out a townhome and living in another. So, or as I see it, I'm going to have to talk with her today. Does she really want this, or is it a dissatisfaction in her current townhome, which I can understand? I realize the drawbacks of it. It can be very uncomfortable. And she works with people she works 18-hour days sometimes. A good 16 hours most of the time. And then has brief times of travel, but that's exhausting. And then working with people long hours again, teaching, and bringing great pleasure and good, physical good to others, and mental and social good through a sport. Who would think, God uses people for good in all different kinds of ways and uses their talents. She's a talented teacher. They don't make much money. even if it's teaching a very wildly popular sport. So she's considering, her life, her income, her future. Doesn't want to end up like me, scrambling all the time. And if it weren't for my parents' gift money, I would be lucky I wouldn't be able to rent here. My income is the price of rent here. So I'd be in quite a bind if it weren't for my parents. And then investing in the island house, not realizing it was a tear down, but learning more skills and having to work my way out of it. But I did well with it. So I think my daughter is seeing and is interested herself in fixing up and wants to learn these things. I think she seems to be very interested. So that's a good thing I can help with and impart what others taught me. So it all works out, but I would find it easier being in a townhome that didn't have the tile floors. Honestly, I have to admit, I'm at the upper level of what I can take pain-wise. But it's the inner of our souls that is primarily needs to be settled. And that happens with a close relationship with God, not with where we live, not with gardens or views or physical comfort, but our spiritual comfort, our spiritual oneness with God, and learning from God, His ways, and in dealing with others and in dealing with ourselves, and in knowing His will for us and what He also wants of us, His desires for us and His will and His wishes. And then aligning our will and our wishes with His, which often means dying to self on things. And I know from the septic shock and living through that, I knew in ICU that God wanted a radical shift of my circumstances and my way, and to get back to the spiritual and to do more writing and better sharing. Not get cold off into my temporal or relational issues, other than what I learned from them that I can speak of without getting into details of people, but share the occurrences and what I'm learning from them, such as understanding that the neighbor, a person who had pulled away, dropped off the radar, was feeling as if I was going to be upset with him if he had expressed, I don't feel up to, I don't want to help do the manual labor. It was too much on top of his anxiety of a new job, and he's under doctor's care for anxiety and other issues, and medications that he's being put on that are some work and some just seem to make it worse. So he has a lot, but I wasn't feeling that. If he had said, I just wondered what happened, I assumed I had insulted, because often that seems to be the case. I say things without realizing. I see things in a different light, and my filters aren't the same or good enough in a general way with others, something I would like to learn. I mean, I know Jesus was assertive and he spoke directly when it was needed, but he also was very appropriate with others when needed. But he did not shy away from confrontation assertively, telling Martha, Mary has chosen the better part. Well, of course, that was going to rile Martha some, but it stung her, and she knew what he meant and was chastised. She was admonished in his subtle way, pointing out what good was, what was desirable, what was better. He didn't say that she chose the best part. He said she chose the better part. So he wasn't taking all away from Martha. Martha was doing a good thing also, but not the better. So I like this teaching here of Saint Cyril. And he has many. He's written lots of catechesis, lots of teachings. And he uses practical examples and points out we have to build from within and have everything in order, or the whole outer will not hold, will not be sound. Our lives, our essence, our purpose, and our mission in life will fall apart if we don't have ourselves, our souls, and our bodies, and our minds, and our hearts cohesive and in tune with God wants of us. And one thing we can be assured of, if you think, like I was, getting confused about, well, what is my purpose and mission? Because the outer effects are not going to be like others. If you have an interior mission, a spiritual mission that is interior and silent and in solitude mostly, or very quiet, more anonymous, or sharing through writing or speaking anonymously, and living your life quietly in prayer. If prayer is also a big part of your mission, and glorifying God, it's an example type, a quiet example, and not a big worldwide movement or anything of that sort, not an active life. It's an interior life, mission and purpose. In quiet little ways, individual small ways. And that is very good also. It's not an either or one's better or worse. They're just different. And God asks of us what he wants and wills for us. And I mentioned in my last video, God arranged my life, gave me things I wanted, and it had me experience so that I would be more attentive to what he really wanted ultimately and overall. And that was me for himself, to use me for himself, to glorify him, to love him, to be his spouse, to do my writing, even if it's writing for him or sharing about him in little ways. So for one, even for just one person, that's as important as for 1,000. One soul is of great value to God. So it's just a matter of God's will and his choosing. And the inner life, and to be a bride of Christ, which is for either gender, is a beautiful honor and something that I haven't always appreciated, because the world is so glittering and the world is wonderful for those who are called. God has missions and purposes for people in the world and those to be out of the world. And I'm one who is called out of the world. And he had to take strident measures with me because he knew how hard it was. I'm so easily drawn out into the world. He told me that directly. I'll share that. And some of this may resonate with you. You may start making sense of your life and of the quote unquote, what we think are bad things that happen to us actually were good things that caused us to be formed and to go in the way God wills and wants of us. So, God bless His real presence in us. Blessed Sunday. Blessed Sunday. God bless you all. More later.